All right, folks, welcome back to the Purple Friday Show, episode 240. And we're back. Yeah, we're back for the draft. It seemed like it was ages ago the last time we did a show, but you know how the NFL works. Once the draft rolls around, then we got what OTAs coming up in a few weeks after that, and or
Mhm.
any organized whatever the rookies will be there in the house probably end of this weekend or beginning of next week, and then that's when everything starts rolling off. And then there's another wave of free agency after the draft when the players are still out there, and whoever doesn't pick whatever position they need in the draft, stuff starts happening. This stuff's already been rumbling around in the draft already. So, but for the draft for the Ravens and their needs, this season is unique in the sense that the Ravens don't really need they don't need a whole lot. They need a lot of depth though. Like at places they do have, like O line, especially defensive line, with Michael Pierce retiring. Namdi needs, you got Travis Jones there that played okay last year. Broderick Washington's been off and on, since he got his deal a few years ago. But you also need some help in the secondary as well. We saw what happened when Kyle Hamilton kind of had to move back to free safety, kind of lost him, where he's able to be in that box area of the defense and kind of wreak havoc there. Having another, safety that can play in that role, whether you pick Kyle there or you pick somebody else there, you can kind of, rotate them, in there and out there, and then getting an outside corner as well with Brandon Stevens moving to, other pastures. They're going to need somebody there because Marlon is not an outside cornerback. And with the guys we're going to be, covering with Pickens and DK Metcalf and, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and just in the AFC North, I would like them to see if they can go ahead and get somebody, that complete a solid outside cornerback and allow Marlon Humphrey to play slot there. And then you get, Nate Wiggins going into his second year. But again, they don't need a whole lot. So most of this is going to be depth, which is kind of where this draft is shaping out. All the analysts and everybody else since the combine and everything else is kind of the draft as far as talent wise, they've kind of downgraded it over week after week. It's like the more they keep looking at this draft and more they keep looking at these players, they're like, it's not really if you're going to try to find that generational talent, and they might be there. Look, every draft there's somebody in the second, third, fourth round, whatever that pops, right? That just but there's plenty of guys in the first round that just flop. So but what they're saying is, I think they said up to 15 to 20 of the players in the first round are really get true first round grades. After that, those guys get second, third round grades. So it's one of those things where teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Ravens, teams like the Steelers, that are playoff teams, the Bills, depending on where that pick is, if your player isn't there, do you stay in the first round? Do you waste, a first round pick on a guy that's going to be a second round talent, and then having that, that's a whole contract thing going on there with having to give them that fifth year option and stuff like that. So there's some of that going on as well. What do you guys think with the Ravens? Do you think that they if they're where they're pick 27? Do you think the Ravens stay at pick 27 regardless, or if it's one of those situations where somebody decides trade back in the first round? No, well, not trade back, but yeah, maybe trade back in the first round. They get somebody in the Ravens and go ahead and trade down a couple picks to like 30, 32, maybe even out of the first round, and maybe they like the selection better on Friday and Saturday they do on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to predict ahead of time. But how many total picks are we up to right now? We have like eight,
I think 11.
11.
11,
Yeah.
11
Then we
picks.
have 11. Yeah, because we have like 3 seventh round picks, or
Yeah.
3 or 4 sixth round picks.
Okay. So I mean, I think obviously it's going to depend on what's available on the board at that point. If they get on a run in the first round where all of our needs are kind of getting taken off the board, then they might trade back and just add a few more picks for the second and third rounds. But so I can definitely see that happening. But with 11 picks, I mean, it might be just worth it just keeping that pick no matter what. I mean, just trying to figure out, a high value, late first round pick at that position. So, I can see them sticking with it. The fact that we're starting off in the draft with 11 picks, but like you said, if we have that many picks in the 7th round, I mean, 11 is kind of fluffed. It's not like you're going to get super high value in the 7th, but crazier things have happened. So I think we might stay at the 27 pick, depending on and just going with the best available method that they kind of typically like to use in the first round. But I know for this year they may want to pivot from that, because I think we do. I think it's time that we address that D line in a valuable way, opposed to just drafting for potential. We want to draft for somebody that's obviously available right now, because that's going to be a need. So I think you stick with the pick at 27, unless for whatever reason, our need is just not available at that pick, and then then trading back, I wouldn't be mad at either.
Yeah, it's hard to call it. It's really hard to call it. And I think like it really depends on how things shake out. Like if you have somebody that takes a Kyle Hamilton like slide, you probably want to stay where you're at. Like if you have a Malachi Starks there, or some pass rusher that you definitely want to take a chance on, you go ahead and make that pick. But if all those guys are gone, if Derek Harmon's gone, and there's no high value pick there, trade down, because even if you trade to the early 2nd round with like a Browns or Patriots, you can still get that defensive end, the edge rusher from Boston College, whose name is escaping me, Donovan something. Like it really depends on how it falls. I mean, the other part of it is like, is there a guy we like enough to move up? We don't typically move up, but you have 4 6-round picks. 4 6-round picks. You got 2 4ths and a 7th, which we usually take a chance on people with. We could definitely be a candidate to move up 10 slots, especially with somebody that maybe slides a little bit, who another team might want, that really is a Raven to the heart, to the core. We've done that before, so I wouldn't even mind seeing that. But it really just depends how it shakes out. This is a very volatile draft, and it's hard to call after pick 1 or pick 2 where people are going to land. I mean, they're talking about Shador could go anywhere. They're talking about Tyler Warren could go so many different places. We just don't know. And this is probably one of the most uncertain drafts that we've had in a while. So it's really just going to vary.
Yeah, we've seen, like, even with the most stable of drafts, something happens around pick 7, pick 8. Team picks somebody out of nowhere that weren't mocked at all to this team, and they pick somebody, and then the whole board goes crazy. Everybody goes crazy. So it's possible. Look, I would be happy if there's like a Kyle Hamilton slide with the top 5 pick that just slides to the Ravens, just because once you get to those late round picks, and not late, those late picks in the draft, those teams, the reason why they're picking so late is because they already have solid players, a lot of them. So there's certain positions that we don't really need that position, that they're just going to slide. So that's possible. Corey just said Kerry Joseph, safety out of Detroit. Detroit Lions just signed a 4-year, $86 million deal. That's big news for the simple fact that they're going to have to pay Kyle Hamilton soon. So there we go. Resetting the market there. Especially for what Kyle does. So it's going to be, like I said. So with how the Ravens use their defense, right? There have been many talks now with Trenton Simpson not playing that well at his spot next to Roquan Smith. Now Malik Harrison moving on to Pittsburgh. That there have been some talks maybe that they could use more safeties on the field in lieu of a linebacker, and allow Roquan to be the only linebacker on the field, which would, they talk about Xavier Watt out of Notre Dame. He's been mentioned. The safety out of South Carolina has been mentioned. There's quite a few good safeties in this draft. A lot of good safeties in this draft. Not really a lot of cornerbacks, but a lot of good safeties. And with what Kyle Hamilton does well and Darius Washington have done well, it would allow them to kind of play a niche role, so to speak. That they don't have to really ask to do too much. Just do a few things here and there. You don't have to be Kyle Hamilton. You don't got to do what Darius does. Just play next to Roquan in this space, in this area, and I just think that, if that provides itself to the Ravens, I wouldn't be surprised if they take that. Now, however, I think what we've been missing this entire time is pass rush. I think that has to be the priority. Now, if you don't get a pass rusher in the first round, there are some guys, they say they're like, they're good, but they have a little shaky, they may not have the arm length or necessarily the pass rush moves. Some of these guys, there's one of them that has he's like one of the worst tacklers in college football as an edge rusher. He's one of the worst, apparently has the worst tackle ratio. And he's slide to go in the second round. So I'm like, unless you're going to get a Pierce out of Tennessee, that falls to you, you're not getting Abdul Carter by any chance. I don't think Abdul Carter is even falling that far. So unless you're going to get a guy like that, I think there's one out of Boston College as well that you mentioned, Travis. I think if you're not getting any of those guys, at that point, I think you have to look at maybe free agency. And, maybe I think there's still a Matt Judon out there. He's still out there available. So Darius Smith is also still available. But you may have to go out and pick an edge rusher to be on this team, just because simple fact the Ravens haven't been successful at drafting an edge rusher since Terrell Suggs. And he was drafted 06, 07. It's been a minute because the Ravens have been able to draft edge rusher. We've had Elvis Dumerville here. We've had Kyle Van Noy. They've gone through this all over and over again. Kyle Van Noy is getting older, and I just don't think that you can expect him to play 17, 18 plus games, at that level, especially when you saw, especially last year, going into the playoffs, he kind of got quiet. He didn't really do too much. I think that was just the age catching up with him. They need somebody in there that can be a little bit more physical, that can rush the passer on the outside. But there's also, I think, on the D line, that guy out of Oregon, Derek Harmon, I think. They've been talking about him as a superb interior pass rusher that you could slide right there, right next to Nnamdi, and provide a 1-2 punch there in the middle of the defense, which I think is going to provide a better situation for the Ravens rushing through the middle of that line instead of trying to rush the outside, just because of the simple fact that even if you have Oweh on one side and maybe a Jabba or whoever edge rusher is on the other side, I just don't think they have that 1-2 punch on the edge where they can just we have to double team one or the other. I think a lot of teams still do, even if they have a rookie, feel comfortable one-on-one. We're willing to, if he beats us, he beats us. We're willing to let that happen versus if you got like a Derek Harmon and Nnamdi in the middle, it's like, all right, we gotta do something here because our quarterback's going to get killed. So I just think they got to figure that part out.
Yeah, I think as far as pass rush, I think that's probably the only position I'd be comfortable with. If they had to move up to go get somebody, I think that would be worth the picks to go up if there's a formidable pass rush that we can get, because I feel like this pass rush position with the Ravens is kind of like flip flop with receiver and pass rush now. It's like all of a sudden we cannot find a pass rusher. And we've been doing okay in receiver lately, at least as far as whether it's drafting Zay and then our free agent acquisition with D Hop. We're not looking too shabby. Rashad Bateman coming along, not looking too bad at the receiver room. But now it's like you said, since Terrell Suggs, it's like we haven't gotten any real consistency. I mean, we've seen flashes from certain guys. I feel like at that position, we're just giving guys a lot of time to catch up to speed, and it's a lot of crucial years that are just passing by where we're not getting it. Not to say that last season wasn't, sort of a success almost in the pass rush, because we were doing pretty well in a pass rush, throughout the year. It just kind of fell off, in some of the moments where we kind of needed it the most. So I think pass rush, like I said, I'm still keeping that kind of at the top of my list just because it kind of seems to be our Achilles heel when it comes to drafting a pass rush just right out of the gate. That's just ready to get on the field and make plays. So hopefully we can just kind of figure that piece out, and then I think with the other positions we'll be fine. I don't really have too much concern with finding value at the other positions on the field. I think we can, with the amount of picks that we have, I think we can find some type of value there. With the amount of 6 round picks with Travis, what you said, we had like 4 6 round picks. I thought it was 7, but we had 4 6 round picks. I think you're muted, but if we have 4 6 round picks, I think find a way to package those
Yeah, trade that up.
and get rid of those and maybe send. I wouldn't be mad if we sent off 2 or 3 of those and move up around the 2 just to maybe get some more value there as well. So I mean that's kind of where I'm at with it, with the OA situation. And like I said, I like what we saw from him last season. I really really do. I think the question is, was it a little too late for him? I don't know. I think that question still remains. But the fact that he did get double digits last season, it's still a positive. But it wasn't good enough for them for there still not to be a major need on the football team. So we'll see how it plays out. I think it's a lot of value, like I said, that's in the draft. It's just a matter of how can we go get those guys at the pick that we currently stand. So Ravens going to have to get creative and figure it out. Maybe a trade. I mean, we have some trade bait this season as well. I mean, I know we picked 27th, but we still have Mark Andrews' situation is lingering. I mean, we do have a way there. I mean, if if there's a switch that needs to happen, I would rather not. But if we can go get the guy that we need, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. Shout out to Dafe Owe. I still got faith in my man. Corey, you're hating. Don't put Alway next to Ojabo. Ojabo is averaging 4 games a season. So, we can't really depend on him. Owe out here getting double-digit sacks. Let's not forget Matthew Judon didn't get double-digit sacks until his last season before he left for the Patriots. So I just want to throw that out there. Yeah, I mean, with the Ravens, I'm kind of been looking at like guys that may fall in the draft. I mean, there's a pass rusher, Shamar Stewart. If I look at Shamar Stewart, I mean, this guy is 6'5", 281, running a 4.6, got a vertical and everything, but he has 4.5 sacks in his whole college career.
That's like Owe,
one sack
Owe
each
all
year.
over again. That's
One
Owe all
sack,
over
yeah.
again.
Yeah, he only has 1 year as a starter. But there's a guy I would gamble on. I would move up slightly, or if he falls all the way, I would take him. And that's Will Johnson from Michigan, who I think may be the top corner in this draft. I know they talk about Travis Hunter, but Travis Hunter is high because he's that two-way threat. But this guy, Will Johnson, is a playmaker, 9 interceptions in his career. And he might slide because he was dealing with some turf toe and hamstring stuff during his pro day and he didn't have his best performance in his pro day. So I just think, that's a guy that can definitely slide, just like a Kyle Hamilton did, and come in here to this defense. And you're looking at your corners of the future where you could put Marlon in the slot, maybe go to that defense that we were talking about, and maybe go have Marlon be kind of like a nickel / hybrid safety. And then we look to get maybe an Xavier Watts in the second round and then build off of that as we go on in the draft. The draft is deep, and we can use those 6-round picks to move up into the third where there's a good plethora of pass rushers, interior linemen. So there's a lot we can do. But, I mean, when we're thinking about guys that can fall, Will Johnson, Shamar Stewart, your guy from Georgia might fall. But he's a small pass rusher. So there's a lot we can do. But honestly, like if I was to target one person with that pick, it's Malachi Starks. put him right down in that safety box, and let him, Kyle, and Ardarius Washington just kind of lock it down where we didn't have lockdown at the beginning of last year.
That would be interesting. Like whoever they pick, right? Xavier Watt, Malachi Starks, or even I can't remember. Cannot pronounce the name of the South Carolina safety. I just can't.
Nick.
Jesus,
Nick.
Either one of those guys with Kyle Hamilton already being there would, I mean, you the scheme, the scheming that they would be able to do with that secondary would just be crazy. Yeah. Like it'd be crazy. Now the Mark Andrews of it all. We kind of thought it was done deal when he, signed his. They gave him his roster bonus in March. And everything. Oh, it's fine. He's not doing anything. And then Eric DeCosta comes out last week, and is very non-committal, about Mark Andrews. And then Mark Andrews comes out yesterday and tweets, "I'm a Raven," and so there's still, here we are, less than 24 hours away, from the draft, and there's still Mark Andrews and the Ravens are still talking about this. So I think there's something there, as they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. I just saw they said about Kittle tried to put down a rumor that he's asking for a bigger contract with the 49ers. Anytime you hear stuff that comes out like that, they are asking for a bigger contract. They're just not trying to let it get out before the draft. And I think there's a there with Mark Andrews that in this draft, like you said, Travis, with there being a lot of interior linemen, defensive linemen, safeties that will be available, even tight ends. Let's forget that Tyler Warren is the top tier tight end in this draft, but there are a lot of other good tight ends, I think, in this draft that the Ravens can select. The Ravens have been really good at drafting tight ends. They just have for over the years. I was talking to when I was getting my son's haircut, and my barber was like, "I can't think of a time the Ravens haven't had a good to almost great tight end in Ravens history." So that's the one thing the Ravens do well, and this is the draft where the Ravens can do that. If there was a time to move on from Mark Andrews, this is the time. This would be the time to do it and be able to move up in the draft, maybe a few picks to go get a Will Johnson or a Malachi Starks for a player that can play right now, versus moving likely to that number one spot. Maybe Colton, not Colton. Colton Cowser, thinking about the Orioles. Thinking about what's his name?
Colston from Michigan man.
Yeah, him from he's there. There's the dude from Oregon is there as well. The tight end from Oregon is there. But even our guy that we have, who's the backup to likely, I can't remember his name right now.
Charlie Kolar.
When he's healthy, so I mean, they have. I'm just saying that if there's the fact that there's still this is the talk around this is still happening within less than 24 hours from the draft. I would not be surprised if a few players start sliding in this draft, that the Ravens do pick up that phone and start calling for Mark Andrews to go to somebody in trade. I just think that, and plus, if there was a time to do it, would be now, for the simple fact the Ravens fans right now, with the memes still coming out about Mark Andrews, and for people that have been watching Facebook and Instagram, there's been the AI thing where they've been showing the figure, the action figures and stuff. And then they've been showing Mark Andrews in there with Butterfingers. That's his accessory. Yes. So if there was a time to move on, now would be the time. And I think it's look, I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens pulled something like they did in, what was that, 20, when they drafted Lamar, where they draft Hayden Hurst in the first round and then trade back into the first round to go get Lamar Jackson. Maybe you throw Mark Andrews in there or something, or an Odafe Owe, I don't know. And maybe a 5th or 6th round pick to move back into the first round if a few players are there at 32, and you just go grab them on day one. Now they said Jalen Ramsey's also been mentioned as well as trade bait. The Miami Dolphins have said that they kind of move on from that, and he's seeking a trade. And I think that would just, for the Ravens and their situation needing a solid outside corner that would fill that role. Now, I wish we had him like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. But I think he's still serviceable considering, again, like we're covered guys like Jamar Chase, T. Pickens, like they're going to need solid outside cornerbacks to get through the AFC North, unscathed. So I think that provides itself some issues. Now, we've known the Ravens, they've been talking the last couple of days. The Ravens aren't going to do anything. It's be real. Don't be surprised if it's a quiet day for the Ravens. Don't be surprised.
Oh, that was a wild call.
My man Miles got some wild ringtones over there.
No, just saying, don't be surprised at stuff like the Ravens are quiet. I don't think the Ravens are going to be too quiet. I think that the win now mentality has to be there, right? I think if in the first round they're talking about the safeties and interior linemen, and like I said, they're going to need still need somebody there at guard on the O line. I feel like they still need somebody there. Like I said, the tight end position there can be, you can draft somebody to take that Mark Andrews role. Wide receiver, you're pretty solid there, but again, you still need help with D line, still need help in the secondary. But it's not necessary to a point where it's like if they don't pick these guys, that they're still not a championship caliber team. But having those impact players that can play with them right now and allows them to make moves in free agency without having to overspend, I think would be the recipe that they need to get this thing over the hump into a Super Bowl. So I think they got to use that mentality, be aggressive. I know the Eagles are going to be aggressive. I expect the Chiefs to be aggressive in this draft. The Bills will probably be aggressive in this draft. I think that the usual suspects, the Bills are going to be chasing a title. The Chiefs are always going to want to be in there, be there. The Ravens are going to have to be as aggressive. They're going to have to be if they're going to compete. They're going to have to be, I think, a little uncharacteristic. Take a page out of Ozzie Newsome's book. The last chapter he wrote, he drafted Lamar Jackson, trading back into the first round to get Lamar Jackson. That may need to happen in this draft.
Yeah, I agree. I think I definitely think that they need to be aggressive. I think that the Mark Andrews tweet, "I'm a Raven." Yeah, I'm a Raven, so you ain't. The Ravens have shown as of late, they will make a splash. To us, we're Ravens fans, and it seems like it always seems kind of dry, and the offseason always seems kind of slow for us. Like we the only team left that ain't made a move, this, that, and the third. That we're free agency, but when we do, it's usually a significant move. Like last season with Derrick Henry move, and we traded Hollywood away a couple of years ago. We will make a move when it's necessary. Maybe we just we obviously would like to see them more aggressive, just period. And maybe not even just as draft, but we just like to see the Ravens more aggressive. But they don't operate that way. Ravens are bargain shoppers. They don't make any splash moves without making financial sense, and that's just kind of something we have to live with. It's a gift and a curse. For the most part, we haven't bankrupted this team. We haven't had any money issues significantly where it comes to us sacrificing something valuable on our team where we can't compete. We're always competing, but we're always competing typically within the cap. So it's kind of like the gift and the curse. But for this draft specifically, I think you do have to enter this draft knowing how your season ended last year. We're at a point now where the Ravens, we're kind of rolling off of this prestige for the last several years, and people are starting to count up these years. We got 2 Super Bowls in the past, since our franchise has started, and Ozzie Newsome is gone. It's a different regime, and it just hasn't been good enough at this point. Yes, we're always going to be that team that's going to be competing, always going to be that team in the playoffs. But I think being aggressive is the right move at this point. We got to get the guys that we need. It can't be lay back and watch everybody make moves and guys fly off the board. Right in front of you, but you just have to kind of I don't know what it is. but that with Andrews, being available, we have talent in Isaiah Likely at the tight end position. I think we still have is Charlie Kolar still coming back?
Yeah,
we still have Kolar. I'm not saying like Kolar. He's a significant second receiver. And he does. He's not the fastest tight end in the world, but he does make plays. So I mean, we won't. I feel like if Andrews left, yes, we're losing. We're going to lose a whole bunch of nostalgia and a whole. Typically we're going to lose some sure hands, but it's not like he had the most consistent year last season. Let's just be honest. So if getting rid of Andrews means that we're shoring our season up, and increasing our chances of winning, you got to do what you got to do. And I think that's where the uncertainty come from with our GM. I mean, yeah, his wheels are spinning now because it's draft season. And yes, I'm not going to commit to something when he's probably looking at the board like, I would love to have this guy on my football team. And I don't know how I'm going to get him here because based on where we're picking, it ain't going to work out. So yes, that conversation I probably had with Andrews months ago, right after the season when I told him I'm committed to you. Yes, things change when the draft, when the draft is in your rear view. So, I mean, right in front of you, not in the rear view. So, yeah, I think in this draft, I think you have to consider all things. I think everything's on the table. Don't show your hand too early, and figure out how we can make a splash in this first round. If not the first round, make a splash in the second. But they got to figure something out. And another thing that I don't want to see, I don't want us to have obviously a mediocre draft. I don't think our last couple of drafts have been mediocre. I think we've had pretty good drafts. But I don't want to see this draft come and go, and then we're relying on a free agency market to create a Super Bowl team. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that that's the way anymore. Championship teams are built, through the draft to me. And, not that we overlook the draft, but if we're just going to think about, signing a bunch of guys after the draft to make this team what it needs to be, I don't think that's the right route either. So, yeah, I agree. I just think aggression this draft is the way to go. Not being stupid. I don't think we should be, irresponsible, but I do think aggressive is the correct word. And I do think you leave all options on the table, whether that means Mark Andrews, whether that means Oweh, which, I would prefer to keep Oweh, or whether that means trading away some picks that we have. Whatever we got to do, I think aggressive is the way to go.
Absolutely. We gotta be aggressive. We're in win now mode. Lamar's about to get a contract extension. He's going to be the highest paid player in NFL history, which means we really got to nail our draft. We can't depend on free agents in the next years because we're not going to have space, no matter how high the salary cap goes with all these streaming deals. Like, we have to really nail the draft. And like you said at the beginning of this show, Miles, we don't got a bunch of huge holes. Pause. We have one coming. Pause again. We really just got to solidify and build depth. I mean, I think we really need to solidify third safety, which is crazy to say that that's a need. That's like a real luxury based upon our scheme. But really, like, try to upgrade the left guard spot, and there's plenty of talent here. Receivers, we're pretty set. We could add depth there. We have like 2 double-digit sack edge rushers. So we have luxuries here. We have luxuries. We don't need a number 2 corner, but we want one because we want to slide Marlowe inside. So win now mode. Win now. Fill these gaps, and just create a Super Bowl contender. That's really what it comes down to. We're in a good spot to really nail this draft.
Yeah. Just
y'all are wild.
Yeah. I didn't really hear anything after that part about Marlon, but I did like that. Speaking of Marlon, I did like that tweet he showed. Some dude was like, "Yeah, I saw." It was another cornerback in the NFL. Was like, "Yeah, I saw this guy." Was like, he followed my girlfriend on Instagram and she followed him back. He's like, "I think it's over, my guy." So I think it's the thing
he's
is
close.
done.
It's over.
It's done, my guy. It's done.
I didn't know.
I
I didn't know Nate Wiggins' game was like this.
Hey, so I don't
Hey.
ask this off out the draft thing. You guys watch the facility every now and then, right?
Yeah, every now and then.
With
Yeah.
Shady, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching too much in the off season lately, but yeah. I watch.
Shady has this hatred towards Justin Fields that I have never seen before. Every time you mention Justin Fields' name, he like goes like apoplectic. Like he hates this man. Because it's weird because he talks about like Caleb Williams, like, you know, oh, he's just a rookie and stuff like that. He's playing like Fields did this first, like he looks trash right now. Like he doesn't look that good. So he's like, a lot of people have been saying the like rumor going around is that I feel like Justin Fields probably took either Shady's girlfriend or something. They were trying to have the same girl.
That tracks, man.
And I think he never let it go. I feel like he never let it go.
Williams ain't taking nobody, girl.
I feel like Fields took his girl or something, and he was like, he's been mad ever since. He never got over it. Because there's no reason you should still be hating this man. He's like 25 years old. He's almost 40. Like, come on, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, get over it.
I just wanted to, I just want to say it. But no, yeah, it's for the Ravens, I would like a good draft, but I also don't want a draft where it felt like they played it safe, right? It just feels like they're missing the moment, right? It just, even if they get this guy's a solid player, he's a good depth piece, and it's all like, yeah. But you're not really like, you're not looking. I don't want to look at the draft and just like, Look, let's look at last year's draft, right? We got Tez Walker. He had 1 touchdown last year. He played 2 games and it wasn't really used. TJ Tampa didn't really see the field. Snoopy Kane didn't really see the field. Like, we look at this draft, and I think we broke it down last year, how there's a lot of, we felt like, solid talent that they picked it like every round. Like it felt like they were just hitting on picks, but half the guys didn't play. And it's just, you feel like with 11 picks in this draft, like you already know, like they're not going to keep all those guys. You're not going to keep all of them because they're the Ravens like to hit the undrafted free agency market heavy. So they're going to get guys there. So I think, like you said, Travis, like I think it would just, for the Ravens, I don't know if they move up in the first round, but I think day 2, like Friday, you got to. I feel like Friday you got to. You got to package some of those picks together and like move up in the draft in the second round. Again, the moment when the Steelers moved up and grabbed George Pickens a couple years ago, I know that got on my nerves. Pickens was right there. The Ravens, I think it was the Steelers and the Ravens, and it was the Ravens and the Steelers, and the Steelers jumped us to go get George Pickens. And I'm like, the Ravens, y'all could have moved up. Y'all could have moved up 1 spot and go get George Pickens. It wouldn't have cost you that much. It wouldn't have cost you that much. And so again, I feel like if there's a player there 2-3 spots away, I just don't want the Ravens to just continue to play it safe. Where it's like that guy could have provided us that spark we needed. And I was just looking at the stats for that Bills-Ravens game. They had 1 sack against the Bills in that game. From Nnamdi had half a sack. Kyle Van Noy had half a sack. So that was on 1 play. 1 play. No sacks the rest of the game. No takeaways. The Ravens need to prioritize whoever they're getting. Edge rusher, safety, whatever, and linebacker, whatever. These need to be guys that take the ball away. Like you said, Travis, if you go get Will Johnson, go get him. You have Nate Wiggins and Will Johnson, who are known ball hawks in college. You get Nate Wiggins in his second year with more confidence within himself, and then you get Will Johnson on the other side. Come on. Come on. And you said, like Trey, the Ravens are bargain basement shoppers. If it comes down to free agency, they're not trading for Jalen Ramsey in that contract. It's not happening. They're at that point not going to go sign Zadarius Smith or sign Matt Judon. It'll be somebody else that just ends up free from, out of OTAs or something. They get cut right before training camp and they go sign him to bring him in. And they just hope they give him 3 or 4 sacks. I'm like, we can't keep doing it. Can't keep doing it. If you can get Oweh, you give you 10 plus sacks, and you put another guy on the other side that can get you 8 or 9 sacks a season as a rookie, then they need to go do it, man. They need to go do it. So I think the Ravens just need to, again, maybe buck tradition, and be aggressive. Again, there are going to be teams later on this draft around where the Ravens are picking. I think they're going to be jumping around, making moves, trading players or whatever. I just don't want to see the Ravens just sitting there, just waiting for whoever just drops to them. I don't want to see that. So, we're going to do a mock draft. So each of us are going to do a mock draft and just simulate who the Ravens might pick or whatever. Again, these are for most of us who don't do this for a living. We don't know outside of the first round. I don't know any of these people. Never seen them before in my life. Never heard their names until like 2 weeks ago. So, but now all the scouting reports are out because I know all of us have been doing mock drafts, and it's like waiting to haven't had a scouting report yet on this player that's in the 5th round. But now all of them are available. So, Travis, if you want to start, give us the first mock draft to see what we might get.
All right, I'll get us started here. Let me go ahead and present. Are y'all gonna make some picks too?
Yeah, I'll make some picks. I'll do some.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
All right, we're gonna see what we got. Let's see here. All right, which screen is this sharing? Oh, hold on.
Do I just
At the
select
security.
my team and enter right away, or what?
Hold on. I have to come right. I have to come back.
Yeah,
on
like
the,
you can,
come back
if
on
you
the
want
stream.
to, you can just start yours now, and we can just look at the summary after the fact.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Are we doing all 7 rounds?
7. Yeah, I did all 7.
Bet.
And yeah, these mock drafts are always interesting to do for the simple fact it doesn't go like this in real life. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
There are players that get traded, stuff like that happens. Since Travis, I'll go ahead and present real quick. Oh, he's back at the stage. Huh? Okay.
Well, Shamar Stewart's gone.
Yeah, I had the security settings. I had to update my security settings. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna jump back into the mock draft.
Oh, I got 3 trade offers.
Oh, you already started?
Oh,
he's like this.
I thought we were just gonna look at the summary at the end. Are we doing it live?
Well, you can do yours live, Travis. I was like, we can.
Yeah. Do yours
they don't
live,
need to see all 3 live.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll be the one that may look like a dummy. I'm gonna criticize my mock draft.
Yeah, mock drafts are my favorite time of the year.
Yeah,
it's my favorite time.
Let's see. All right, here we go.
I'll accept that. Oh,
all right, y'all can see me.
That was a bad trade.
All right, so I'm gonna start. Let's go ahead.
All right, see what you got.
All right, so it looks like I have Josh Simmons available, who it looks like ESPN, they're trying to mock him to us. I got Gray Zabel, who I think is the best guard in the draft.
I've heard about him, the North Dakota State guy.
Yeah, James Pierce available, Donovan available from Boston College, Walter Nolan, a pass rusher. I got 3 trade offers. These the Bills,
that's 6, that 30.
To the 30.
And 62.
So it really depends. Where do we want to go? Do we want to solidify the interior line in the first round, or do we want to go ahead and trade back because we have an edge rusher at the back end of the first round, early second round? We have 2 of them actually that we could go ahead and get. You know what?
If Zabel's that guy, I do like Pierce though.
I do like we want to prioritize pass
Mm.
rusher. I think we have some guards and some centers that can switch out the guards later in the draft. I think we have
Yes,
Anthony
yeah,
Belton
the
in the second round.
interior line,
value
I think they
moving
said
up.
is deep in this draft too. So I'm like,
Yeah, I value moving up to that 62nd pick.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and do that.
okay. So they both
All
went
right,
to the
now
Chiefs.
the Bills want to trade again. Oh man, they're going crazy.
Yeah, they said they're aggressive traders.
I'm not moving back to the 56th pick. Yeah, nothing else of value here. I'm going to reject all those. I got to reject them one at a time.
The Chiefs took Zabel there.
Yeah,
So
they
Lee
took
Spears is still
Zabel,
available.
and the Bills took Donovan with our pick.
Also,
They
the
went
Chiefs
ahead.
traded up. The Chiefs traded into that. Okay, they traded up.
Yeah,
They got Zabel.
so they traded with the Redskins. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and take James Pierce.
And
I
that's
like
good.
him
So
from
that's going to be
Tennessee.
interesting with the Chiefs because we know they do need O-line help. Their
Yeah.
O-line is bad shape. So
They need tackle help too.
that's one of those situations where Zabel's available where the Ravens are before they get to 27. You may have to trade up and go get somebody like that.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm gonna go ahead and draft
Basically, you
Pierce
want the
here.
Chiefs to get him. You don't want the Chiefs to grab him. You don't want the Chiefs to get him.
We got our edge rusher, and we got an extra second round pick. All right, so now we're down to the 59th pick. We got trade offers from Arizona and New York to move down. We have some people available. Jalen Milroe, we're definitely not going for a QB. We have another edge rusher. We have an offensive tackle from Minnesota. We have a good defensive tackle from Toledo, Darius Alexander. I really like him. And we have a corner later on, Darian Porter. I'm really high on him. I want to go to try to get that number 2 corner. What do you all think? I think I might. I'm tempted to trade down to New York. I don't want to end up getting 17 picks again, but looking at how this is shaking out, I mean, I wouldn't mind getting value and trading back a little bit and going getting.
What pick is that the Giants have? What pick is that?
The 65th. I'll be moving back 6 spots.
Oh, and you get a 99.
You get 99 too. I would.
I'd take that. I'd take that.
Or do I want to go ahead and get this defensive tackle and build some pressure up the middle since we already got our edge rusher?
I still take the trade. I think I still take the trade.
I think I would too. So
yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and trade back. Everyone wants to trade for our pick, so we have the 62nd pick right now, so we can still actually go get our guy. Actually, no, it looks like our guy got took. So trading back, and our guy got took. Darian Porter, the pick before us by the Redskins. So I don't think I want to trade back anymore after that. Let's see what we got here on the board. We still got our D tackle. We can still solidify the D line. Alfred Collins from Texas. He's also a good D tackle. Let's see who else we got over here. We have Kevin Winston from Penn State. Miles, I know you're familiar with him. A little further back. We could probably get him with our second pick. I think I may go get Darius Alexander. Solidify our D line.
I just grabbed him in mine.
Yeah.
Looks like everybody wants. I'm not trading back anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and reject these trades and stand pat. I don't want to lose any of my targets. Now, I think with this pick, I don't think we have another pick for a good grip. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get our third safety here with Kevin Winston. What do you think about him, Miles? You got a scouting report?
Oh no, yeah, Kevin Winston, has been there I think all 4 years. Was a key cog in that defensive secondary for the Penn State Nittany Lions. He's not as athletic, obviously, as Xavier Watt and the rest of those guys, but I think for the role that he would be filling in, like especially for Darius Washington, he fits that role. He's a veteran guy, Penn State defense. Yeah.
All right.
Especially at this pick.
Yeah, third round. Let's go ahead and get him. All right. So, we're here later in the third round. We have a tight end on the board. We have Cam Scotabo, that running back.
Scotabo.
Yeah, thinks he's Ashton Genty, but with fumbling problems. Now, we missed out on a corner earlier, but
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a couple solid corners here. I've seen Dorian Strong play in person. He's a very fluid corner, very solid technique. I think he could be a good guy at this value pick. Um, we also could go and we could wait a little bit, try to get a linebacker. We could try to get a interior lineman. I still think we have one with Ohio State who's a center that could convert out. So yeah, I think we have a lot of options here. I don't want to get a tight end because we haven't made a decision on Mark Andrews, but definitely want to solidify with another corner. That's just me. I feel like this is a big draft to go ahead and really get some depth and some young energy in that defense. So I think I'm gonna go Dorian Strong here.
I actually picked him in my draft too. I picked him out of Virginia. Yeah, Virginia Tech. Picked him out in my draft.
I like the way this is falling right now. Now, this is where there's some decisions I can make. I'm 100%. I think it's Ty Felton or Tay Felton. I'm a fan. This guy, he was definitely an impact player at Maryland. He has kick return and punt return experience at Maryland. I think he averaged like 25, 26 yards a kick return freshman and sophomore year. So I think he's a solid guy we could definitely use. We could also go offensive line here. And then we have a linebacker further down, Danny Stutzman, who's pretty solid, could be a good depth piece. Now, granted, this is the 4th round, so I think getting Tay or Ty Felton here, I think could be a good value, especially special teams, as well as someone that can develop. Maybe push Tylen Wallace for his spot. Maybe push past Tez Walker, and even get even more reps past that. So I think I'm gonna go Tay Felton.
Who's that other receiver out of Maryland? There's 2 of them. It's Tay Felton and somebody else.
Prather. Yeah. All right. So now at the tail end of the 5th round, I'm not seeing my guy from Ohio State. He must have got picked up. Let's see here. Let's see what we got. Let's look. Looks like my guy from Ohio State got picked up already. There's a guy from Bowie State. Look at that.
Now, with taking Felton, right, you're strictly taking him at this point for special teams purposes?
I think early on, kick return, punt returner. But I think he has long-term potential at receiver. He's a very productive receiver at Maryland. Can high point the ball, and he's a blazer. He's definitely a blazer.
That's where he fits, because I'm looking at the wide receiver room for the Ravens, and it's real crowded in there right now. It's real crowded.
Yeah, I honestly think he could definitely push Tylen Wallace and even Tez Walker for reps. They could slide in there as a number 4 receiver, definitely with a good camp. But we'll see. This is where it kind of gets tricky. This is kind of where you're just trying to like fill things. Pause.
Filling those holes.
Yeah, we want to fill in these holes. So you got Jake Majors here. He's a 5-year player at Texas. He's a good athlete. He's a guy that could, with the IQ and his movement ability, he could play multiple positions. So this could kind of be a swing guy on your interior line, backup center, could also play guard. So I think at the tail of the 5th round, I think this is a guy that definitely could push for some reps on that O-line, especially push at that left guard position. So I'm going to go ahead and draft him. I'm not going to trade back anymore. This is why I'm not a GM, because I'll trade back early but not late. I have too many picks. Here, I mean, at this point, we're looking at best player available. That could definitely slide onto our team and really make an impact, whether it's special teams or just as a depth piece. So, I mean, we could go get our 3rd tight end if we think we're going to trade Mark Andrews. We still need like a swing tackle that can replace Makari leaving. We also need somebody that can push Trent Simpson for reps because we lost Board and forgetting who else. We lost Chris Board and somebody
Harrison.
else.
So I'm
Harrison.
looking at them, yeah.
So this linebacker from Kentucky could be a solid pickup there. I think I'll focus there because we need somebody that can come in and push for reps on our defense. This is a very defensive draft, as you see. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Dumas Johnson. All right. So now that we've gotten further, I'm going to go and try to get my tackle here for Wisconsin. And then this is how it's fall. This is how it fell on every draft so far. When I get to the later 6th round, I have my pick of versatile running backs. So we have Jordan James from Oregon, who is a pretty versatile guy. And then Jaden Blue from Texas, who is a very explosive athlete.
Yeah, I heard he's also be used a lot in the special teams, like punt return.
Yeah.
Too.
I actually drafted him.
Jaden Blue, yeah.
Yeah, I got him in the 5th round, 6th round, or something like that. 5th or 6th. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Jaden Blue. And I still got another 6th round pick to go. So here, I think I'm going to go ahead and get somebody to push for reps on our defensive line. And Tonka Semiway, SEC product. And then we're down to our last pick. So let's go and look at a project we have here. Texas Tech, Jalen Conyers, a guy that can come in and try to get reps. So I'm gonna go ahead and draft him. And we'll see where that lands with the whole Mark Andrews scenario. So when we look at this draft, as you see, my perspective, I think it's a good draft to really go and address our defense with a couple key pieces on the offense in the middle rounds and some projects later in the draft. How did y'all land?
I'm finishing mine up now. Well, I'm in the 6th round right now, so I'll be finished in just a bit. Mine is definitely defense heavy, though.
Yeah, and I think that's where the draft is going to land. It's going to give us a lot of opportunity to really get a bunch of guys that can contribute on defense.
Yeah,
it should make for some interesting camp battles as well for even guys that have been there. Like it's going to make some interesting camp battles. Just because it sounds like with how you drafted and just how this draft is going to probably shake out, there's going to be a lot of players in the same role. They're going to be competing for snaps. So, and that can only breed the best out of everybody, right? Especially guys like Travis Jones in the D line. Guys like Nate Wiggins' spot is pretty solid, but depending on what happens with even on Darius Washington, just because he got tendered and everything doesn't mean his spot is solidified. Depending on who they get at safety, interior O line especially. So yeah, I'm almost finished mine as well.
Yeah, and I think to echo what you said, I mean, when you look at the edge, I mean, you're not only pushing Owe, you're also pushing Tavius Robinson, who's had flashes of being a really good football player. And at the same time, if Owe goes and has a decent year next year, I mean, he's going to command a big contract. Mm-hmm. So you definitely want to make sure you have guys in waiting. Same with Travis Jones. He's going to be commanding a contract soon. So I think this allows us to put us in a good position depth-wise, financially in the future, especially with the big Lamar contract, Hamilton contract, likely contract, Linderbaum contract, a lot of contracts.
Yeah, there's a lot of D tackles in this draft. I'm looking at like the list and stuff. There's a lot of D tackles in this draft.
Yeah, a lot of solid guys that can push the pocket.
So, I mean, even if they don't get, the D tackle they want necessarily in the 1st or 2nd round, there could be somebody that slides to the 5th, 6th round, or even undrafted guy that comes into camp and shows out, Because, again, they don't necessarily need anybody to start. You got Nnamdi already. You got Broderick Washington and Travis Jones. So it's like you don't necessarily need them to start right away to be productive. Yeah.
And the thing I like about Darius Alexander is he's versatile like Nnamdi. He can play the 1, the 3. He can play in the 4-eye. So I think he's someone that can really make a lot of things happen. And they list him as a very explosive athlete that can push the pocket. So I think he fits like what we are trying to look for in Harmon, but we can get him later and get a pass rusher too.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm almost done this draft.
I think the knock on him is that he just didn't play the same level of competition.
All right, I'll share my screen about to pop up. All right, let me share my results real quick. Present, share screen. All right, so I drafted Derek Harmon with my first pick, D tackle. I then grabbed guard there, so kind of addressed the interior line issues for both sides. And Donovan Jackson, Ohio State. Dorian Strong, I got in my third pick, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. Then I got Demetrius Knight Jr. They've talked about him being like rangy and stuff. He's a good downhill, rusher. So getting that P Queen role back, not necessarily like a Roquan or anything like that, but fitting a very specific role, I think he would do well there. Jordan Phillips out of Maryland. Then I got Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State. Another, this solidifying that O line. I think after last season, I think the Ravens can't have enough O linemen going into this one. And then with one of the trades, I have also got another tackle, maybe to spell Rosengarten depending on if something happens. Craig Woodson, safety out of California. Then I got Zay Frazier. I've heard about him a lot, even though he's a late round draft pick. I have seen a lot of people really kind of like really talk him up a lot as far as, he's a bigger cornerback. And while he played at, UTSA, they say he was one of the better cover corners in the league, while he was there. Then I got Luke Kandra out of Cincinnati, another guard. Kobe King, linebacker, another guy, like you said, like I said, with Kevin Winston. Been there for like 3-4 years. Solid guy, there, part of that, defense that got Penn State through the playoff there. And then I got Phil Maffa out of running back out of Clemson. He's like 6'2", almost 240 pounds. So basically like another Derrick Henry-esque kind of player there. So if they need a spell, I think that will allow them to go ahead and do that. Spell Derrick Henry, Phil Maffa in there, get you a yard if you need to go get it. So that was my pick right there.
Not bad. All right, let me share my screen. I think mine just wrapped up. Share screen. Okay. Oh, do I have to grant permission?
You're gonna have to get knocked out too.
Oh,
that's what happened to me. Yeah, it's gonna make you restart.
Hold on, let me see. Hello. Yeah, right back.
All right. We'll fill time with Miles. That was a great mock draft.
No, I really like that mock draft I did the other day where the Bills gave me like 6 picks. I sent you guys. They gave me like 6 picks for that. But again, I drafted another one. I drafted that dude at the UTSA, Frazier. Yeah. So I think this is once they get out of the third round. I think, like you said, this is where it gets tricky, right? That 4th, 5th round, and you're gonna have all these picks in those late rounds, and it's just like. Are you really you're not gonna keep all those guys? Like those guys are gonna be camp cuts after a while. Like, so it would if there's a guy that's available in the 2nd and 3rd round, go ahead and package some of those 5th and 6th round picks to move up and go get the guy that you want. I think that would be the best thing they will probably do there for sure.
All right. Chrome tab, window, boom, share. Oh, does that mean my draft didn't save?
It's gone?
Oh my God, it did not reopen.
You might. Oh, you gotta do it over.
I'm cooked. I should have took a picture of it first.
If you can go back, maybe your history.
To your history.
You go to your history. That page should still be up.
Hold up real quick. Let me.
Yeah, we can't see your history, so we're good. If you want to see your search history.
Hold on 1 second. Oh man,
I want to see that search history.
Shannon Sharp.
I know, man.
That's gonna be a new tagline now. And Sharp is out here.
Onk.
Nasty
Onk
man.
it out here.
Nasty man.
How do I found it? How do I find it? 2 tabs. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, they didn't save that.
Okay.
They didn't
Dang.
save it. I'm cooked. I did all that for nothing. I was hype about that joint too. Well, next time.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, it's it'll be interesting to see how day one shakes out. I think it's if we see it go crazy, I feel like it's gonna happen around like that pick, like within the top like 5 to 10, that 5 to 10 pick range is when it goes crazy. And guys just start sliding down the draft. And like I said, every year there's always teams that draft players that aren't even mocked to them in that first round, and they just pick them anyway. Like,
Yeah.
so who knows? Mel Kiper and all the rest of those guys get paid all this money for these mock drafts, and I don't think anybody's near right about when these guys pick and stuff because things obviously are very fluid in the draft and how these things shake down. But again, I think, like we said, I think the keys for this weekend for the Ravens: be aggressive. Don't just kind of let the draft happen to you, kind of thing. Like, be kind of dictate the draft a little bit. You have the picks to do it. You got 11 picks. Go ahead and use them. You don't need to pick 11 players, but I think with the Ravens in their situation, you get the outside corner, maybe a guard, and an edge rusher. I think those are the three things that you need, like dead to rights. You need everything else, icing on the cake at that point. Everything else is icing on the cake. Everything else you just kind of like, hey, we need to spell this person. Hey, we need to back up for this person. Hey, we need to back up for this person. Blah blah blah. Everything else can kind of be fixed through that. Even like I said, I'll say this. Even what's his name is still out there. The Green Bay cornerback that's been Jair Alexander. He's been out there as well. Again, once this draft is over, there's going to be another wave of this either trades or free agency that's going to happen. Or draft night. Jair could get traded on draft night to somebody, to the Ravens. I don't know.
And my sleeper crazy theory might come true. Dallas Cowboys said they got 2 substantial moves in the works.
What, trade with Shador?
Micah Parsons?
Micah.
Trade Micah?
Talking a lot of junk to Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry don't like that.
Hey, Jerry, man, if we somehow get Micah, I mean, that opens up.
That's the draft night right there.
That opens up a lot of options.
You fixed a lot of problems already on draft night before you pick, right?
We can really draft for luxury at that point.
At that point, right? You're literally drafting just for the next 3 years. You're just drafting, hey, we don't got to play these guys right away. We can just develop these guys over the next year or two.
Send Mark, send the second. We got him.
We'll see. See how these. There's also been rumor going around that AJ Brown might get traded. The Eagles might trade AJ Brown. Because the situation with him and Jalen Hurts, they just paid Devontae Smith, so
that baffles me though. Like,
he might get moved
with all the issues. Y'all still want to chip? Like, come on, man. Like,
he might get moved. He got the ring already.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts ain't the same without him. I would trade Devontae Smith.
No, not yet. Not at all. Not at all. We saw how he was without AJ Brown in the field. So, unless they're trading for, I said there's not an equivalent wide receiver in this draft for AJ Brown.
I don't think the Eagles can afford to lose either one of them receivers, though. Even Devontae Smith. I feel if he gets traded, then I feel like AJ's game is going to look a little different.
Yeah.
So it'd be in their best interest to keep both those guys over there if they try and run it back.
Look, Howie Roseman's a bad man. Howie Roseman does some wild stuff on draft night. I would not put it past him. Would not put it past him. But all right, is that it? Anybody got anything else? Anything else we got here?
No.
Yeah. If anything has told us, if the last 24 hours told us anything, as far as getting close to 40, we're almost 40 years old. We're almost 40 years old.
Stay married.
Stay out of these streets, people.
Stay off of OnlyFans.
Stay out of these streets.
Be
These
married.
streets ain't got nothing for us millennials, man.
They wild out here.
You can't be out in these streets as a millennial now.
Stay away from them YNs.
They're sporting out here.
Nah, Gen Xers and millennials, we gotta stay inside, man.
Yeah,
stay inside. Day parties only,
man. Be a family man.
What would Dr. Umar do?
Yeah. So, on that note, we're out of here. We'll catch you guys later. We'll do a post-draft show, kind of assess how things went down. Hopefully there's some surprises tomorrow and over the weekend.
Good surprises.
Good surprises over the weekend. So we'll catch you guys later. See you later. Peace.
Peace.